when they fix your problem. I'll get there, but there's no urgency about it. There's no reason to rush. I'm not in a hurry. I don't care the way you do about it. This is how we feel most of the time when we ask something of Jesus. Yeah, come on, somebody. You know how we feel. We feel like I got a problem. I need it fixed right now. And this is how we feel. All we want it is now. We want it now. We want it now. And because if now doesn't happen, Mary is gonna have a problem. If now doesn't happen, Martha's gonna have a problem, because in their mind, in your mind, in our minds, if now does not happen, it's gonna be too late. And we look to Jesus to be there, like he was there for the disciples. You know, when they woke him up from the hinder part of the ship in the book of Mark, and the ship was caught up in a storm with high winds, and the disciples went to him and they asked him, "Don't you even care?" And Jesus fixed the problem by simply stating, "Peace, be still," and the wind ceased. But when they called for Jesus, he woke up out of his sleep. He was there. But Mary and Martha are not experiencing that same sense of urgency. You see, because what they think about is, when we call for Jesus to get our child, or to get our brother or our sister or our mother out of this situation that we feel is important, Jesus arrives late. And when my child yet dies or gets sick from starvation before he arrives, my brother is in an overdose coma before he arrives, my sister kills, 20-something sister kills somebody while driving under the influence, and now at 20 years old they get to spend the best part of their life locked up in jail. It doesn't matter to them, because Jesus is saying, it doesn't matter, because Jesus is saying, I'm going to get there. But my mother, who I have watched be battered and beaten to within an inch of her life, he just doesn't arrive for her. He's late. And to every one of us, these are the situations that we count on to death. And we don't have to worry about it like that, because Jesus is saying, I am in control. Somebody say it. Somebody say it. Jesus is in control. He understands. He understands. And no matter how bad our situation looks to us, no matter how we feel, he is yet in control. Why? He loves you. And he has called you to his service. And it doesn't matter that he wasn't there when you thought he should be. He's saying, because I am Jesus, I can do anything but fail. Besides, he's already told you that all things work together for the good of them that love God, and to them who are called according to his purpose. It is as if he's dealing with you as his father dealt with him in the Garden of Gethsemane when he was praying before they came and got him to put him on the cross. He says, yes, I love you. He says, yes, I understand this cup seems too much for you to bear. He says, yes, I know the feelings that I have for you, and I have not forsaken you. He says, yes, I know you lifted me up in glory. He says, yes, I know you've been faithful in your service, but nevertheless, not my will, but thy will, not your will, but my will be done. Let's talk about that word will for a minute. Will, our will. It's always important to us to get our will across to whoever we wanted to get it across. You know how we are in conversations. You know how we are when we want to do something. What we want to do matters the most at all times because our will is important to us. Throughout history, man has at some point in time or another always felt that his will was more important than God's. It's as if we feel we deserve to be first at all times. And so we place our satisfaction, we place our pleasures, we place our enjoyments before the will of the Father. But as soon as trouble comes calling, as soon as trouble gets in the way, as soon as the water gets just a little bit murky, when the storms of life begin to fall on us, that's when we call who is able to provide. That's when we call on him who is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all we could ever hope for or ask. But when he asks for his will to be done in our lives, in every part of our lives, we can't do it. I got to do this before I do for God. Every time it's time for Jesus, something always seems to come up. I'm tired. But you knew that when you stayed up till 6 in the morning, the church was going to start at 10 o'clock. So you shouldn't be tired. You should have gotten to bed. I'm hungry. I don't have no gas. I don't like the way the usher looked at me when I went over there just the other day. Looked at me kind of strange. There wasn't nothing wrong with me the way I was praising him. If I didn't want to stand up, that's my business. But that's not what God is asking you to do. Because what we do is come up with excuses, that when we use them, we don't want to do the will of God. That's when they come around. And when they come around, we find another way. And we think we're doing our thing, exercising control over our will. But let me tell you something. It's just God's permissive will that you are operating in. Because when he's ready to exercise his will, he will judge you on how often you did his will. God is not going to send you to hell. Your will send you to hell because you have decided that your will is more important than the Lord's will. But nevertheless, not your will, but his will be done. And he won't be late doing his will. Martha and Mary both told Jesus, if you had been there, my brother would not have died. How wrong they were. You see, Jesus' appearance of lateness is so that the Father could be glorified, so that in his arrival, he, the Son, could be glorified. He is the resurrection and the life. That's what he told Mary and Martha. And he said that he that believeth on me, though he were dead, yet they will live. Hallelujah. But whosoever liveth and believeth in me, hallelujah, shall never die. So send for Jesus, call for Jesus, but have faith enough to believe. When you call him, that whatever you're asking for, that he will do. You got to know that sometimes it's not just enough to call on Jesus, but you got to be willing to wait on Jesus. You got to be willing for God to do his will. So while you've been sitting up here in this fast, if it doesn't seem like what you're asking for is getting done, just wait on Jesus. But you still got to call him every day. You still got to lift him up every day because he will be glorified in what he does. See, that's the true miracle of what happened. It's not that Lazarus stood up. It's when he stood up. It's when he got there to the city and everybody was standing around. Non-believers. They were just there because they wanted to comfort Mary and Martha. They didn't care nothing about Jesus' arrival. And when Jesus stepped up on the scene, all bold and proper, standing up there, he just looked at them and he said, "We'll roll away the stone." But they said, Lord, he stinketh. It's been 4 days. You see, there was a purpose in those 4 days. Because if it had not been for the 4 days, they might not have believed it. Because in their time, they believed that it took at least 4 days for the spirit to leave the body. But Jesus, arriving late, but right on time, showed them, I'm never late. I'm never late. Because when I speak, I have authority. When I speak, I can get it done. And if you just believe in who I am, If you just believe that I live it, if you just believe, you'll never die. And so he called for Lazarus. He called for him a little bit like this, just like you called Jesus. All you say sometimes is, Jesus, help. And Jesus just looked towards the cave. He looked towards the tomb. And he said, Lazarus, come forth. He didn't mince words. And you don't have to mince words when you call him. You need to learn how to call on Jesus, because he's never late. You need to learn how to look at